This is TomoNews for Thursday, October 19th. Dog stays behind to protect baby goats from wildfire. This is Odin, a Pyrenees dog from wine country, California. And these are his goats. Wine country is currently ablaze with wildfires, and Odin was all up in it. His owner, Tembo Hendal, said he and his family caught word of an approaching fire and were trying to leave, but Odin wouldn't budge. Hendal said they even cried for Odin and the baby goats, thinking the worst would come to pass. But to their surprise, they found Odin and the goats, and even some deer alive just a few days later, albeit a bit burned. Now, if you're Norse geeks like us, you're probably thinking Odin went all Odin and sent the fiery giant Surtur back to the pit from whence it came. But that's not the case, at least not here. Hendal reckons that Odin managed to ferry the goats to a rocky area near the home. Odin, for his troubles, suffered heat damage to his fur, which turned orange, and some burns to his paws. Meanwhile, much of his humans farm was damaged in the fire. The family has set up a You Caring page to help pay for barn repairs, as well as for water and shelter for Odin, his sister Tessa, and the goats. If you're feeling generous, we've included a link in the description. Poor girl. Most schools have no problem with 11-year-olds in sleeveless outfits, but in Billings, Montana, shoulders are apparently considered scandalous. One little girl learned this the hard way when she showed up for a picture day in a cute new sleeveless dress over black leggings, and promptly got policed for violating the dress code. Seems the ultra-conservative school board came up with the ridiculous policy of banning bare shoulders. The school even reportedly said the child's shoulders were distracting. Seriously? If a person gets offended by an 11-year-old's shoulders, they're the problem. The girl's family was so outraged by the asinine rule that both mom and grandma took to social media to rant. Miffed netizens soon began to chime in, criticizing the school and its dress code for sexualizing young girls. Ultimately, the school did allow the poor student to take her photo in the dress, but forced her to change into something more appropriate for the rest of the day. The girl has since been understandably upset, but the administration refuses to discuss the issue further, noting that since the child changed her clothes, the case is closed. Thinking of dressing up as a creepy clown? Don't. Florida police are warning creepy clown cosplayers to think twice before sneaking up on unsuspecting victims, who may just serve a can of whoop-ass in self-defense. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office put out the statement on their Facebook page after getting wind of a suspicious incident involving a boy and a clown. The 11-year-old boy had been biking to school on Friday the 13th when a clown suddenly jumped out at him from some bushes. When it looked like the perp was going to grab him, the boy whipped out a metal selfie stick and whacked the clown several times to defend himself. Undeterred, the creeper began to chase the boy, but soon tripped and fell flat on his face, then ultimately slinked back into the bushes from whence he came. The boy didn't see any weapons on the clown, but went ahead and told a crossing guard and teachers about his ordeal. Deputies went back to the scene, but didn't find the clown. With October 31st just around the corner, you'd think people would be less bothered by creepy clown activity. But guess even Halloween can't save the clowns now. You'll really need to blame it on this one. Startup is training crows to pick up cigarette butts. Tired of looking at cigarette butts littering the streets? A Dutch startup might just have the answer. Crows are highly intelligent and are able to make and use tools. Cigarette butts are the most littered item on the planet, with an estimated 4.5 trillion butts thrown away each year. The startup Crowded Cities plans to use the crowbar, a device with a funnel for cigarette butts and a dispenser, to teach crows to pick up cigarette butts in exchange for food. It trains the crows using a 4-step process. The first step presents food next to a cigarette butt, training the birds to expect food from the machine. Second, the machine only gives out food after the crow arrives. Third, the device only presents a cigarette butt with no food. The crow then starts to look for the food and, in the process, knocks the butt into the funnel, dispensing the food. The fourth step involves removing the cigarette butt, but leaving them scattered around the crowbar. The crow will then start to pick up butts they find and bring them back to the machine. The next step for researchers will be to study how collecting toxic cigarette butts affects the crows. China's concept Martian forest city. Matt Damon sure could have used one of these concept Mars homes in 2015's The Martian. The concept from the Chinese Space Agency, Tongji University, and Stefano Boeri Architects would see a spaceship ferry a colony of massive pods containing forest cities from Earth toward Mars. Once the pods have touched down on the red planet, Inhabitat reports they would use ecosystemic seeds to take root. This colony of forest city giant pods, dubbed New Shanghai, would also reportedly contain an infrastructure and an Earth-like atmosphere. Would you like to live in New Shanghai? Critics are calling for a virtual Trump wall. As construction of Trump's prototype border fences continues down in San Diego, critics are calling for other options. Texas Sheriff Martin Queller believes a virtual wall at the U.S.-Mexico border would be more effective than a physical wall. Queller says building an actual wall would have to overcome environmental issues and deal with the abundance of privately owned land along the border. The sheriff has been looking for $92 million in funding over 5 years for a virtual wall that uses technology and agents on the ground as an alternative to the wall. His proposed virtual wall would extend around 300 miles from Starr County to Del Rio. Cost estimates for Trump's border wall range from $21 billion to $40 billion. Trump has repeatedly promised Mexico will pay for his wall. Sure they will.